Okay, looks like we are live in YouTube and Facebook. Neil, sir, yet again, welcome to the show, the podcast, the ODCH Thursday Live podcast. And we have one person who has already joined. Whoever has joined, wherever you are, just type hashtag live so that we can show your comment, we can take your name, and we would love to do that. All right. And if anybody is watching this live, welcome to the ODCH podcast. We do this on Thursdays between 9:30 to 10 p.m. in our YouTube channel. ODCH is a platform dedicated to help all of you ODIA working professionals, job seekers, exam aspirants to improve your English communications level from average to exceptional. All right. And we have with us the communication skills and soft skills expert as well as a diet coach, Mr. Neil Sengupta, live from Bhubaneswar. All right, Neil sir, welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me once again.
Super. Sir,
Lovely to be a part of this podcast, sir. Please.
awesome, sir. Likewise, sir. Today we are going to talk about some of the challenges in grammar and sentence construction that our learners usually face. And we would like to get your expert opinion to help them resolve it in the smartest possible way and in the fastest possible way, if possible.
Correct.
So, without any further ado, let me ask you the first out of the top five grammatical problems that people face. The first problem is we have noticed among our learners that they often lose control over continuity of tenses. They start with, let's say, present perfect, but they end up, in past perfect or something like that. So, what's the solution to this according to you?
Sir, it's a very valid question. Sir, I'd like to ask you, do you remember writing on the blackboard for the very first time? Right? So if you
Yes,
remember
sir.
when we started writing, we were never writing in a straight line. We would get started in a line and then, it will just go like this up, or maybe that'll go totally down. So then we were introduced to notebooks, white notebook books with single lines. Now, with the single lines, what happened was we started writing so that our writing could be in a systematic way. And once we got those linings correct, then we were asked to write in notepads which were completely white. So I think people who are missing out, especially when it comes to tenses, and they are making these continuity errors, for them, I would advise that to do certain exercise. Those exercises are something like, first of all, they will have to be totally unidirectional, and they have to work on, let's say, simple present, talk about daily habits, do these exercises. They have to start all their sentences with yesterday and then practice just simple past. They will have to start sentences with tomorrow and talk about something which is always in the simple future. So this way they will be unidirectional, and once they have got that correct, then we can give them exercises, or they can practice well in. They will talk something from the past, and then they'll talk something now, and then they will talk something about tomorrow. So yesterday I did that, now I'm doing this, and tomorrow I'll do it. But for that to achieve, first they have to practice in a unidirectional way.
Beautiful. Unidirectional way, step by step process.
Right, sir.
They need to ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରକାରର ଟେନ୍ସ ଫର୍ମ ଧରିକି ତାଙ୍କୁ ବାରମ୍ବାର ସେଟାକୁ ରିପିଟ୍ କରିବାର ଅଛି ତାପରେ they can try mix and match of different tenses.
Exactly.
Fantastic suggestion, sir. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to thank you so much, Sumitra and Rohini, for being live. Whoever of you are live, please share your comments so that we can show your comments or questions in the chat box, okay, in the live screen. All right, moving on to the second biggest challenge that we have seen people face in grammar is, sir, why is that sometimes learners miss the subject verb agreement? For example, they'll end up saying he prepare for exam instead of saying he
Correct.
prepares for the exam. Or they will say, let's say, for example, Neil, Shrimay, and Biman was traveling, instead of saying were traveling, which is the correct form. So, why does that happen according to you?
So, firstly, I would not like to blame, especially people and students who are committing this error. English at times could be a little confusing, right? When we over there, the rules are also too many numbers. For example, when they say he dances, so we use a plural form of the verb over here with he, right? But I dance, but with I'm not using again a plural form. But they dance, but she dances again. So it those rules could be a little confusing. So first we need to sort those things out in our mind, that okay, where exactly are the verbs, and where is that we are using the plural forms of the verb. It is only when we are talking about third person singular, that is where the verb becomes plural. In all the other cases we have the verbs as singular. This is the first thing that they have to clear. The second thing that what we need to do is that, see, if you open the book of Wren and Martin, and if you look at the subject verb agreement, now there are 16 rules, and the upgraded version it has 21 rules of subject verb agreement. Now, anyone who is not preparing for a competitive exam, and if I've just bothered about my communication skills and I see those 21 rules, the next thing that's going to come to my mind is, let me make those errors. I'm not going to look into the book and start studying 21 rules over there, right? So
Right.
what I have done in classes is that I have compressed those rules into four or five simple rules, five rules to speak about. First is where exactly there is a first subject agreement. If there are multiple, let's say, subjects, where is it that there would be a first subject agreement? For example, when we are using conjunctions like as well as, when we are using conjunctions like let's say just well. So whenever we use these kind of conjunctions, so what we need to do is the verb agrees with the first subject. So if I'm saying Ramesh and I'm not going to use Ramesh as well as I'm not going to use over there am, but I'm going to use is, because the first subject is Ramesh. Then we
Right.
can talk about some conjunctions which take, let's say, second verb, the second subject. When you use not only but also, or along with, or only with, so these are the places where the second subject takes the verb. Similarly, there are sentences wherein you have to look at the idea. If the idea is singular, does not matter if the sentence is plural. For example, when I say bread and butter, now this means livelihood. It does not mean I'm talking about bread and butter which I want to have for breakfast. So the meaning is singular. Slow and steady, right? We say slow and steady wins the race, although it is plural, but the meaning is singular. So we say slow and steady wins the race. So we have to look at the meaning, right? For example, Team India. Now, Team India, I can over here I can say that Team India is, you know, Team India is playing well, because the meaning is one. But over here, I can also use it in a plural form. If, let's say, during the practice session, all of them they were wearing different clothes, I can say Team India are wearing different colors, because over here the
Hmm.
meaning becomes plural. So the meaning over
Correct.
here is important. Then the and part with and, wherever there are articles, and that is the other rule that we communicate. And finally, there are certain rules which are always singular. Like whenever you use someone, everyone, each and every, somebody, so all these are always singular. So what we do is we take them through these simplified rules instead of giving them 21, 30 rules. That's the next thing that we do. But eventually it is about practice. They will have to practice that, and they will have to identify if they are making these errors. Why do they need to learn these rules? Because they need to identify, if I'm committing an error, I should be able to understand, okay, yes, I did an error. So that is very important.
Wow, excellent, excellent tips. You shared some of the gist of those rules. Out of the 20 rules, you just shared the most important ones that we need to know. And I hope everybody is able to make out like what exactly is told. If you aren't, if you're not, if you are not able to catch this, go ahead, replay this video and start making notes. And you can also share it in your comments so that one of us can review whether you were writing it correctly or not. All right. So we have a question. Hi, Lover. Good to have you here. Thank you so much. And we have a question from Sumitra. And Sumitra says that, Sir, Team India plays well or Team India play well? sir just sir just answered it. Okay, but sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So over here, it would be Team India. Neither it's plays well or play well. When you're saying now, what exactly is the meaning? When you say Team India plays well, that means you're talking something that they are regularly playing well. But
Regularly.
if you meant that it happened in the last match, it should be Team India has played well, right? So this is how it should be. So basically,
Correct.
right. So basically, sir, when something is united, for example, if I'm talking about committee, now committee is a singular unit. So I'll say that, the committee, let's say if I say that the committee has decided that the president is going to be Mr. Siddharth, right, sir? But there are times I can also say the committee have, especially when the committee they are not in agreement. I can say that the committee have differences because they are
Hmm.
not united anymore. So it's the meaning
Wow.
that you have to catch. Yes.
Interesting one. Thank you so much, Sumitra, for asking that. Sir, moving on to the third biggest grammatical or third most common grammatical error is that actually this one is a major problem with many of the learners. Uh, it's the placement of verbs in a sentence, especially. For example, most of them, instead of saying we should pay attention, they end up saying attention, we should attention pay, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, the verb and adverb or adjective, though they mess this up. What's your solution to
Correct.
that?
Sir, first, I feel that as trainers, we should be able to identify why these mistakes they are happening. Now, if you look at the genesis of it, the genesis is that during translation, they actually make this goof up. For example, if I say something in Odia, suppose I say that, Aji mu puri torkari khaichi. Now, in their brain, they are just translating that into, let's say, English, and they would say that today I puri curry ate, because Odia is a language wherein the verb is more or less at the end, especially in sentences. But English is not, the structure of English grammar is not that way. You use the verb in the middle of the sentence. So I would suggest the only way they can get this correct is not by reading but by listening. If they read if they read a lot, let's say, and if they are trying to translate, in that case this particular error is very very common and very difficult to eradicate. If they want to eradicate it, long hours of listenings are required. Only then they will understand, okay, this language has a different structure. A language is always learned by listening.
Wow. Learning started listening, learning starts with listening, as they say. Very well said, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that. We need to listen a lot to understand the pattern of the language, the pattern how the language is spoken or written. That's what sir was referring to. Sir, question number 4. You know what? A couple of days ago, even my daughter, who is in class 7, was seeking my help on this particular issue. Very common issue. It's called prepositions. We have noticed this issue over and over again in our learners, among our learners. They either miss to add the correct preposition, or they will end up adding, using the incorrect preposition. So, what is your advice to fix the preposition problem?
So rightly said that when it is about preposition error, either they miss it or they add an extra. At times, unnecessarily they add an extra, and at times it so happens that they use the incorrect one. So these are the three errors that they normally commit when it comes to prepositions. Now, what I would suggest is that again, as English is a little confusing. For example, there are no fixed rules as such. However, we have to understand the meaning. Let's talk about the word speak. So with speak we can use to, we can also use with. Now speak to whom? You normally speak to an authority. For example, you speak to a principal, but you can speak with your friends.
Mm.
Right, that's the meaning of it. Now, how do they now once they get to know this, what they have to do is they have to remember these words in clusters. If they just try and remember the rules that you speak to an authority, they will miss again the next time when they speak. So I would suggest that try and memorize those words in clusters. Speak to a principal instead of just trying to memorizing the rules. You speak with your friends in clusters. Learn idioms, learn phrasal verbs. So when you learn these phrasal verbs, you're learning words in a cluster. This will not only help them come out with the correct preposition, but also it will help them in your fluency. For example, we know that listen is a word which always will take the preposition to. Similarly, prefer is a word which will always take the preposition to. When it comes to junior, to, senior, to, anterior, to, posterior, to. So all these words, they will take the preposition to. So instead of trying to learn this, you start remembering words in cluster. Junior to me, senior to me, prefer, tea, let's say you prefer coffee to tea. So remember the words in and these small sentences in clusters. If you memorize them in clusters and remember, it is not only going to reduce your errors of I mean your preposition, but also it is going to help you in your fluency.
Excellent. So, I mean, if we end up trying to remember the rules of preposition, it will take years for us to understand.
Correct.
However,
Correct.
if we want to fast forward our, learning, then we need to learn in cluster because brain remembers the patterns. Okay, for
So
this
I
word, this preposition, correct.
Sir, I always tell our participants, our students, that what is your end goal? Do you want to become a PhD and a lecturer in English, or you want to speak good, flawless, best, in terms of English? What is your end goal? That you want to be there on the on the forum and speak with confidence. That is what you need, right? So if your plan is, of course, if your plan is tomorrow you want to write a book on English grammar, then please learn the rules.
All the rules, correct. Got it, sir. Thank you so much. And here I would like to share if you have been loving this so far, we have two more questions to go. I think one more questions to go. Question to go. Yes. Yes, correct. Now, before I ask you the last question, before we discuss the last question, I would like to quickly remind all of you that if you have not yet subscribed to this particular channel, then you're missing out in one of the most qualitative communication skills training ever created in the state of Odisha for you Odias by the Odias. So please don't miss out this wonderful training. We have a masterclass coming up and available for you on this Saturday at just rupees 99. So if you're watching this, then please take a look at the comment section right now. I have sent the link for you to register just in case you haven't yet. All right. Now, having said that, sir, coming to the last part of this podcast, here is the fifth most common grammatical mistake that this part of the world makes. We have noticed that when these learners are asked questions like quizzes on auxiliary verb usage or helping verb usage like is, am, are, they always, most of them end up giving the correct answers. However, when they speak, they somehow, most of them always end up making silly mistakes, and especially in the usage of has, have, had, be, and been. So what is your suggestion to avoid such auxiliary verb mistakes, sir?
Sir, I think we will have to take a leaf from the book that we answered the very first question over here. First, they have to definitely be a little unidirectional, and they have to, of course, first they have to understand what are auxiliary verbs. I mean, English language again, it's very because it's very different from other languages. We have double usage of verbs. So there is a helping verb and there is a there's a main verb. So
Main
if
verb.
someone is running, then when someone is running, then running is the main verb and is basically the auxiliary verb or the helping verb, right? So as you just said that it is be, the main form be, it is have and do. These three words, they more or less they take the auxiliary form, right? So do you like, for example, when you ask someone, do you like, so like is the main verb and do over here is the auxiliary verb, right? And
Agree.
have,
Yeah.
yes, and have is also a, let's say, it's an auxiliary verb, especially when you use it in let's say in present perfect or past perfect. When you use it, that
Right.
when you say that you have you have done this, or you have gone there, etc., etc. Now these are grammatical, these are grammar rules. So I would again suggest that if you have to practice unidirectional. For example, let's say, if you become good with tense, you automatically become good with auxiliary verbs. But auxiliary verbs
Hmm.
also have another big chunk, which are also known as modals. So we are not getting into
Right.
modals because modals would be another huge chapter, where to use should, where
Yeah.
to use, and we should also leave something so that they can come to the ODCH platform and learn. Why should we tell them everything over here? Just kidding. Just kidding. We might in fact have a complete session on modals, because modals is huge when it comes to
Huge.
the yes, when it comes to the complexity of these auxiliary verbs. And then modals, you also have semi modals, like need to, ought to, dare to. Excuse me. So anyway, coming to auxiliary verbs, I believe that auxiliary verbs will be better learnt if you get yourself with the tenses, acquainted with the tenses nicely, first of all, by practicing unidirectional. And at the same time, please get a good book, and every week you should be reading something. Now once you start reading, your tenses, they start falling in place, because when you read something, you are reading an idea, and those idea, again, you will see that they will be in a continuity of a particular tense. And then suddenly when the idea changes, immediately the tense will also change. And that is where they will start grasping that, okay, so this is how the auxiliary verbs are used in different tenses. So it requires a lot of reading effort. And listening is sacrosanct. We know that listening is something that we simply cannot replace with. If you want to be good with English, you have to listen to English.
Awesome, sir. So what I gather is that you basically spoke about 3 points. Number one, listening, listening, listening as much as possible. Number two,
Absolutely.
uh, learning in a unidirectional way first, right?
Correct.
Taking care of one tense after another tense after another tense, and then mixing it up, not straight away mixing it up, right?
Right.
And the
Right.
third point that you spoke about is reading, reading, reading as much as possible, so that brain will remember the patterns. Just like listening, brain will remember the patterns and various usage of these auxiliary
Correct.
verbs with the tenses.
Correct.
Amazing, sir. What a session we had, and wonderful, wonderful tips you shared. These were the top five most common grammatical errors that this part of the world makes. We have seen that among our learners. And sir, thank you so much for your presence. Here, I would like to tell everybody. I would like to announce that in the next segment we also have planned a little bit more detailed version of grammatical errors. So if you want your grammatical errors or your weaknesses to be included in our podcast, please feel free to comment. Please feel free to comment on particular subjects or chapters or certain weaknesses that you have, that you want to conquer. So remember that we are talking about communication skills here, not just the language of English, but we are talking about conflict resolution, leadership communication, attentive listening. We are talking about presentation skills, public speaking, voice modulation, body language, critical thinking, so on and so forth. So if you are someone who has a certain weakness and you have identified it, please feel free to comment on it, so that we would love to talk about it over a podcast with our soft skills expert, Mr. Neil, sir. Sir, any last words from you before we wrap up the session?
I think the last word would be, please work hard. Keep working on your communication skills, because if you're not working on your communication skills, you're settling for mediocrity.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for your attendance, your presence, and to each and every participants who watch this live. Thank you so much. ODCH is grateful to you. Don't forget to check the link in the bio and in the comment box so that if you've not joined ODCH yet, you can quickly join the most qualitative training on communication skills ever done in the state of Odisha. I can proudly say that. Looking forward to welcome you. Take care. Good night, sir.
Good night.